opinions stated in this podcast do not reflect the opinions of the Alestle or SIUE as a whole. Welcome back, everybody, here on the Alestle After Hours show, hosted by myself, Sam Murin. And today we have a very special guest joining us. We have Mass Comm student Alex Trepka. Alex, how are you today?
I'm doing great, Sam. Thanks for having me on the show.
We appreciate having you. Now, Alex, you are a graduate student. I'll let you introduce yourself a little bit, but you have done some research this semester, and we're going to talk a little bit about that. But first, why don't you give us a brief introduction so that people know who you are?
Sure. I'm Alex Trepka, Media Studies graduate student. I was a Mass Comm undergrad back in the ancient era of 2005 to 2009. And here we are in the year 2026, 2025-26, getting my master's degree in media studies.
Yeah, I won't bring up my age, Alex.
Okay. Yeah, we've talked about it.
We have. While you were in undergrad, I was being born.
Yeah.
But no, and now it's funny enough, I'm following your footsteps, following that media studies program that you are chasing after. So it's really cool. What an odd parallel between the two of us.
It feels like, as we have gotten to know each other over the semesters, kind of being the undergrad kid in the background to where you are now, really, from what I have seen, Sam, seeing you rise through the department and getting the different positions because you've been working really hard and you've found your niche with all the great sportscasting and everything. I was talking with Dr. Hicks the other afternoon, and I told him about you helping me with my docuseries and stuff, and he put you in the A-team of the Mass Comm department. So a little flattery for you there.
Well, thank you. Everyone listening is probably like, we hear enough about him. We don't need more. But no, Alex, I really appreciate that. And let's dive into this docuseries as well as the research. Let's start kind of with the research side of things.
Sure. And
really, what is the study about and how did it come about for you?
Sure. So back last semester, so fall last year, getting into the tandem class, which you'll find as you go through your program, getting into media theory, which I think is like 501 or 500.
500, and then
research methods for mass communications, which I think is either 501 or 502.
Yeah.
500 level classes. So we're talking like these are not your typical undergrad, classes. You're expected to do a good chunk more work, I would say, because you're a graduate student and it's expected. But through my course of taking media theory with Dr. Basanjav and the research methods class, which was taught by Dr. Lath, the two of them for my last semester was like really honing in on what am I going to research, not just research, but what am I going to survey students here on campus, and digging in and finding kind of those ladder rungs of media theory to like pull you up into like maybe a different type of scope or a different type of knowledge gap that maybe exists that you're curious about. So as I moved forward, I found this really, I don't want to say ancient because it's about 50 years old, but it's a media theory called ritual communication theory, which is basically back in 1975. James Carey found that you can receive your news through one of two different ways. So one is the like direct route, which is the news people send you the news, and that's your news that you get for your outside world. Now, as we see in 2026, that can come with complications depending on if you have other sources or if you're, you know what I mean?
Yeah, where are the sources from? Are they firsthand sources? All that,
right.
Yeah.
So direct communication versus ritual communication, which is you receive your news and then you talk about it with your community and you find where that news means, what that means for your life and your community because you're actively engaged with people around you. So again, in 2026, having these silos of information through doom scrolling, through different ways of you getting your news and how it informs your life, I think my research all rolls up to what does your interaction with others mean for you, and as we'll get to maybe a little bit later, how you feel like you belong in your community. So between that media theory and another media theory called social marketing theory, which the easiest way to think about it is good propaganda. So wear your seatbelt. Only you can prevent forest fires. Drink water or drink milk. These are things that maybe the milk lobby notwithstanding, but these are the social marketing theory is basically like you are encouraging people to do things for the greater good, as
for
opposed themselves and for others.
Right.
So between those two, I felt like that was a pretty powerful pairing of, okay, I've got some actual media theories that are, a number of decades old. And how does that apply to 2025, 2026? So the crux of my work was really built around the science behind belonging.
Mm-hmm.
So how does media studies, video production, social media, live events, how do those components lend to a greater sense of belonging with our students here on campus? So looking at through the lens of on-campus students, how do different offices, different departments, different people here on campus activate or hopefully boost the sense of belonging with students that are interacting on their feet, here on campus? So through a lot of research, digging in deep with our wonderful access to the library with so many scholarly articles and just thousands and thousands and thousands of science at our fingertips, I really found some interesting research behind belonging and what it means when people feel like they belong, mm-hmm. and the downsides of when they don't feel like they belong and they're the outsider. So all of my research kind of was rolling up to, again, what does SIUE provide our students that can maybe make them feel like they are actually a part of this school more than just their student ID number, and that lent me to my final project, which bore out to be a 6-part docuseries on the different departments like Access for accessibility needs students, departments like the International Services Department that services all of our many international students, and first-generation students too. So these groups are, I would say, vulnerable groups that need that extra attention and care, need those extra spaces, need that extra accommodation to feel like they can navigate SIUE the best way that they can. So my docuseries was more or less focused on how those departments interact with each other, how they spread throughout the campus, and what they really mean for not just those students within those groups, but how do every student here on campus, how can they feel like they have a vested interest in continuing to be an SIUE student? So in a nutshell, that's what my work really kind of rolled up to. I just recently finished my final project defense in front of my committee, which some familiar names that you might know. The chair was Dr. Musunda Kapitamoyo, awesome person I've known for a number of years back to my undergrad years. Same goes for Corey Byers, who is a really big influence on me, and we've done a lot of work together. I definitely look up to Corey, and again, decades-long relationship with him, and that also extends to Tom Atwood, a Peabody Award-winning documentarian. So I really chose a committee of people who I know. Musunda's like big on the data, Corey's big on the craft, and Tom is big on the subjects.
Yes.
So
yeah, that's a tough committee to defend.
It is. My project was definitely under a microscope. I will self-admit, Sam, I have always had a propensity to want to either write or be in front of the camera. Being a director and certainly being in the editor's chair for this project was a challenge, but I knew walking into it, it was something that was going to challenge me and was going to be a worthwhile endeavor, especially in grad school where you should feel like you're being challenged.
Yeah, I was gonna say that's a good motivator to go that route. And I'm like you, I like to put myself in those uncomfortable positions, and so I thought that's really neat. No, I'll admit that I had the privilege of working on one of your shoots, and you did a very good job organizing. So
well, yeah, you helped out with our international contact, Amy Nusser. But yeah, running a 2-camera shoot goes a lot easier when you have 2 people,
Yeah.
2 extra people helping,
no
as
kidding.
opposed to just doing it solo. But along with not just researching this, I actually through the research methods class, we got like an IRB approved survey. So the IRB basically is like an ethics group that says like, yeah, the questions you're asking aren't going to violate ethical reasons, and the survey is not going to bring harm to anybody that takes it. So I was able to get a survey out that basically was rating or gathering data on the sense of community, aka their belonging score, and that extended out to like, membership and shared emotional connection, and if they feel like, they are actually seen by the university, basically 4 different subscales. And then I also asked some identifying questions of like how old you are, or how many times have you been to an SIUE event in the past 3 months? How many social media channels do you follow for SIUE? So just gauging and getting the hypothesis of, if you follow more social media channels for SIUE, you will have a higher belonging or a membership score because you are at least getting the news about SIUE.
Yeah.
And then asking the question of like, okay, how many times have you actually gone out and been a part of these different events that SIUE puts on? And again, the more that you show up, the higher your membership or belonging score will be. So I thought those were pretty makes sense, right? Tracks to have that be the outcome, or your hypothesis. And through the research and the data that it bore out, those 2 hypotheses were proven correct. So it's important to, and maybe we can dig into this more, but I have found through my research that like media comes secondary.
Mm-hmm.
So you can be there, you can shoot the interview, or you can shoot the parade or whatever, but people are going to see that retroactively. And so my research and kind of the end product that I got to put up in front of my committee basically said, belonging is showing up. You can have these doorways that the university offers you to walk through and be a part of, but it's really up to you, the student, the person who might want to feel that belonging, to show up in those places so that you can feel the belonging. So with the media studies part, I think I really was leaning more into like the live events, and I know live events are kind of its own beast. If you've ever been on a live shoot or a live production where anything can happen, anything can go wrong,
and you have to go with the flow.
Go with the flow. So I think that is a really big skill that any mass comm student should expose themselves to. A live event can, like I said, your boom mic might not work, or you might not be able to get the right white balance, or something, technical. But also through live events, it could be, you could have an interview that goes way wrong, and you're like, how do I save this?
Yeah.
So with the media studies and the live events, I know that there's like a sweet spot, and I have a prediction, Sam, that as we move forward in our world of continuing to be this deepening pool of AI and this continued siloing of us and our different echo chambers through whatever feed you've got scrolling in front of you, I will stake my future on there will be a pendulum shift back to being present with other people in the same place at the same time, experiencing the same thing, making eye contact, showing up in these actual physical ways that I think there's a lot more stakes when you show up as the person you are versus the
Online.
Avatar or
Yeah.
your screen name of what you're posting as. I have a feeling, and I'm saying it from a different generation now, Sam. I know we established there's a little bit of an age gap here, but there will be, in the future, it will become the hip thing to do, being in a space without your phones.
Yeah, and I hope you're right, because I think there is some, like you mentioned, there's value there that's underappreciated by my generation, to an extent. And,
Sure.
And no, I thought that was really interesting. Your research was very fascinating to me. In fact, it was funny because for a class of Tom Atwood's we mentioned earlier, we had to do a podcast, and myself, and Annabelle Brown worked on this together, where we interviewed commuters that had commuted and how they felt disconnected. And one of the girls we talked to, she rode a barge. She lived in Missouri, rode a barge.
I remember you talking about
Yes, and it was like an hour commute to school, and she rode the barge across the Mississippi to get here. But like, she felt more disconnected, and part of that was probably because she was riding a ship. You know,
Yeah. Well, as I kind of first set out on this docuseries that eventually got the name Belonging At, the commuter base was one of the groups that I was going to look at, along with athletes. So when it comes to feeling like you belong, we talked earlier, like you do have to show up. 70% of the students here at SIUE commute. 70%. That's a huge number, and that's a lot of bodies coming to campus and then leaving campus. In my research paper, I talked about the like siren song of the parking lot. So you get your class, your car is calling to you, so you could leave and get off campus and go do whatever's next, right? I can attest to feeling that, especially in my undergrad. And knowing that staying on campus means, you know, staying away from home or, you know, your comfortable bed or what have you. But ultimately in my docuseries, I said, you know, commuter students are a tough group to wrangle. It is up to SIUE to have those alluring events to maybe draw them in. But ultimately, if you want to feel like you belong, the onus is on you to show up and be there. And I know that might be easy to be like, oh, well, it's up to you if you want to belong, but it's really true. I can offer it to you, but you have to accept it if that makes sense.
Yeah. Let me ask you this. I know you talked to a lot of resources for, like you said, those potential groups that are likely to feel left out. Do you think SIUE should create, or do they have something that could reach that mass audience that maybe if it might be a situation where SIUE is structured differently than other schools, because it used to be a full-on commuter school. Right. As we know, they've developed into trying to make it a more on-campus institution. Mm-hmm. But do you think they should commit resources to try to connect to that 70%, that large scale, in order to invoke that belonging?
I definitely think that there is utility in having different events, different, I don't want to say prizes, but there, you know, what would it take? That's really like an institutional thing that, not to say that SIUE pays no mind to commuters. They do have really great events. If you look on the eToday or the events calendar, there's constantly things happening, not just in the muck, but all around campus. So it is really a factor of, what's it going to take to break that pull to have those students go to class and go home or go to their job or what have you. That's a difficult question, to be sure. Not to say that commuters don't feel like they belong at SIUE, but it feels like they are certainly at a disadvantage to have that like built-in, oh, I'm already here, I'll just stay and go to this thing, or it's not till 7:00, but I'll hang out, I'll, you know,
do something else in that time, right?
And it's totally doable, but that 70%, and again, it's kind of like it feeds on itself. Like if you feel like you belong at SIUE, you'll go to more events. If you don't feel like you belong here, you're going to be heading home, and that kind of is a self-perpetuating cycle. You know what I mean? So it's a difficult group, this commuter group, and a part of me, being the docuseries is a visual medium, I thought about how do I capture
belonging.
How do I capture belonging in commuter students? Do I just stand out in the parking lot and like try to catch people as they're going to their cars? Not exactly like engaging content per se. It might have bore out some different ways that SIUE could capture them. Capture is probably not the great word, but could get them to stay.
Yeah.
But ultimately I said, okay, commuter students, 70%, a huge chunk of the student population, or focusing more on like students with accessibility needs.
Yeah.
People who need assistance walking to class because they're unable to see because of their visual impairment, or unable to communicate the way that they are able to because no one in class is a ASL interpreter. So these different groups, and I know I also mentioned athletes. Like, athletes are a big group. They want to feel belonging. By the nature of you being on a team with other people under the banner of SIUE, I don't want to say it's automatically built in, but you already have kind of a network of people that are already, we're all in this thing together as a team. So with athletes, certainly they want to feel belonging, and I think that they get a heavy dose of belonging through the work that they do
Absolutely.
with their coaches and with their other teammates. Commuter students, tough to capture, tough to break that code, tough to break the spell of going out to your car and leaving, but ultimately landing on international students who are thousands of miles away from their families, and they are solo in Edwardsville for the first time. What does SIUE do to make them feel like they belong?
Mm-hmm.
Accessibility students, if you are unable to participate in class because they handed out a sheet of paper and you can't read it because it doesn't have Braille on it, how does that affect their belonging? And then, of course, first-generation students. If you don't know what a FAFSA is and your mom and dad can't tell you what a credit hour is, or your family, has never had to apply for scholarships and stuff, what resources do we offer those students? So in the interest of really shining a light on some of our most vulnerable groups, I think in the end the docuseries was stronger to focus on the groups that I think belonging really can sink its teeth into deepest. And in my research paper, I talk about the commuter component and the athlete component. But ultimately, with the docuseries and the end research paper, it was like, these are three groups that could really use the most boost in their sense of belonging.
For sure. Now, will this be published where people can access it, and how can they kind of watch this series and read the research?
So 2 Fridays ago, I had my final project committee, which was a huge push to, finalize my 6-episode, 30 minutes of footage all together to submit to the committee, and also a 65-page research/reflection paper. So it was a lot of work, and getting in front of the committee, doing my presentation, going over my research, going over the docuseries, and then showing several episodes of the docuseries. After I found out that I passed, which is a huge relief, I got some technical edits from the group, specifically, Tom and Corey, that this week is coming into, my timeline and getting those updated. Things like, updating captions and making sure spelling and punctuation is right on point. I hope to have that done by the end of the week. I'll have that turned in to the committee just as like a formality to make sure that they see that I have made the edits. But that will also be the chance that other people can watch it too. So I will be sending you a link, Sam, so you can check it out, and I'll also be putting it on my YouTube channel to have it live on there. And I'm really proud of it. I got to interview a lot of incredible people here on campus, and I got to work with other people in the production side, some of the A-team of the MassComm. Shout out to Cam and shout out to Mitchell. Really great videographers and DPs for the work that I did. Very much indebted to those who know how to use our cameras just slightly better than I can.
Yeah, they're great. They're great resources. Well, when you publish it, I'll be sure to reshare it here for our audience to see.
Thank you.
Now, just talking about some other publications while we kind of switch gears a little bit. Alestle Live, if you are unfamiliar with it, is our student-produced news broadcast here, published by the Alestle, ran by the SIUE MassComm Club participants. That published last week, the last episode of the semester, episode 3, so go check that out. Next week, I guess a week from today, we'll have a new publication of the Alestle on alestlelive.com, so you can anticipate that. If you haven't picked up the copy from, I guess, a week prior, I don't know when it came out, a couple weeks ago, go pick up the paper copy of that, and then obviously our podcast will be out next Saturday as well, along with Alestletics. And if you haven't listened to Alestletics this week, Audrey and I have a lot to talk about, so join us there. Alex, we'll kind of close up. We close up with this section called our obsessions. Now, your obsession might be completing this project, but I'm gonna not let you answer that. But basically, it's like, what have you been obsessing about over the past week or month or so? I'm going to cheat and say that I'm obsessing that I'm almost done with Dr. Hicks's research paper. I'm very close. So I turned in a first draft, and he gave me some edits. While we're here on the topic of research. So that's my obsession, is I'm almost done, and I don't have to think about this paper.
Which class was this?
This is for media law.
Media law. Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. I
It was a really
media
good.
law.
It was a really good paper from his point of view. I think. Well, not to speak on his behalf or hype myself up here, but he said he liked it. So.
Well, if he's giving you compliments, that's probably a good sign.
Yeah, it's a sign of somewhat success, right?
Well, in fact, I went to visit him yesterday, and you were in his office.
Oh, was I?
And I was like, well, Sam probably needs him more than I do. But yes, if are we talking with our obsession, Sam? Is this
It could be anything, from coffee related to TV show you're watching to absolutely anything.
Well, I feel like I've been talking about this artist for a while, but recently I got turned onto a band that has really been speaking to me, and I've just been playing their newest album on repeat. But it's a band called Bill Murray. It's Bilmuri, one word.
Okay.
And it is a former Sam. In my younger years and even through today, I like pop punk and emo and maybe a little hardcore and music that, if I actually mention it in my research paper, a lot of this work that I talk about belonging and specifically live events, there's this concept from like 1915 called collective effervescence. This gentleman named Durkheim studied people going to mass.
Mm-hmm.
And if you've ever been to a Catholic mass, the standing, the kneeling, the holding hands, the communion, the whole ritual of going to a service like that, when people are in the same place at the same time experiencing the same thing, strangers, those kind of walls melt away and you become a community for that time. That can go for a comedy show, that can go for a concert, that can go for a church experience, that can go for places where we're not on our phone and we're experiencing something together with our eyeballs collectively at the same time. So not afterwards, but in the moment. When I was in undergrad and in high school, I would go to a lot of shows in St. Louis or here on the Illinois side, like Pop's Nightclub or The Pageant, different venues that would have live music. And I would go with my friends, and we would go like 8 deep, and we would be in the pit and, being kinetic and these, again, I mentioned it in my research paper, I was but a bubble in the collective effervescence of like the crowd.
Very cool.
But to get back to the current obsession, Bill Murray has been putting out music that really speaks to me in terms of like we'll call I don't want to say BPM, but like it's a high tempo, it's a kinetic, it's meant to be played loudly in a big space where people can kind of get in that kinetic spirit. But Bill Murray is a little bit different in that he and the band utilizes like slide guitars and mandolins and kind of has a little country spin on things.
Twang to it. Yeah, that's cool.
But it's also, he just came out with a new album 2 weeks ago, and it's also at parts really heavy, like gonna blast you in the face with this guitar and drums and stuff. So if anyone has any interest in looking up Bill Murray, Bilmuri, in September, I'm going to go see him live at the pageant. I recently got my mom turned on to him.
Nice.
I didn't know that this music could speak to a woman of that age, but she's super into it and plays it around the house. So it's kind of been a fun thing.
You're sharing it.
That I'm sharing it with her, and I'm hopefully sharing it with other listeners. But Bill Murray has been on my car stereo a lot, and really good workout music. Things that have a real driving beat.
I get up and move,
Exactly.
No, I was just about to say, you strike me as a person that goes on tour and sings along in your car. I do that too.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
Every time I get in my vehicle, I'm performing for Europe,
Yeah. Right on.
So there you go. No, that sounds great. Well, if you haven't checked it out, you should. And don't forget to check out this podcast next week, as well as our sports podcast with Audrey and myself. Alex, thank you so much. Congratulations on passing your final project, and I look forward to hearing about all you do after you graduate. Hopefully I'll get there too, maybe one day.
Yeah, thank you, Sam. I know you have a path set before you as well. You're on the bachelor's to matchlers.
That's what it is. That's what I'm calling it. It's a matchlers because it's like a master's and bachelor's all in one. No, that's my new look at that. You should
slip of the tongue.
You should copyright that.
It makes sense. But I wish you the best as you get into your own media studies gap in where you're trying to find your little niche. And I'm really excited about kind of coming back to grad school, finding a new focus on like what I really want to do with my time and my energy and the skills that I've picked up over the many years that I've been in and out of SIUE. And I hope as your path takes you down there, Sam, you'll find your own niche. And it seems like you're going to continue down this like sportscasting.
Yeah, it's probably something along those lines. We'll see. It could go anywhere, though. That's the great thing.
You got the skills, man.
It's a great thing about life. Well, if you have anywhere to go, you should definitely check out the Alestlelive.com for all the news about SIUE's campus. And again, don't forget to listen to our amazing podcast that will be returning next week. So we'll see you then, and adios.
Adios.